Hello everyone. Today I wanted to talk about the UFC model, basically because Dana White has heavily been involved in the Terence Crawford against Canelo Alvarez build-up through Zuffa Boxing, which is a new entity that is looking to sort of like centralize the whole boxing model, and I think he will get involved within boxing, especially in the next 5 to 10 years. So I think it's important for us to look at like some of the work that he's done previously, especially with like big organizations like the UFC. So on my Instagram, I did a post breaking down the UFC model. I spoke about the contracts and their sponsorship deals with major companies, and I think this is something that we'll see in boxing, especially given the Muhammad Ali Boxing Revival Act, which basically creates a centralized system. It gets rid of all the belts and there's essentially one belt in each division. So basically, so the UFC made $1.5 billion in 2024, which was their highest recorded revenue in the company's history. Um, Now, one of the reasons why they basically made so much money is because of the control that they have over MMA. So they previously bought out major rivals, including Pride, WEC, and Strikeforce, and that sort of removed the competition and it's brought the top fighters into the UFC roster. Um, and they're also under the same parent company as the WWE, which makes it even stronger. And because it's part of such a big umbrella, it means that there's more eyeballs. So those that are watching WWE, for example, might then tune into the UFC because they're under the same sort of company. A big like point in the UFC is fighter pay or the lack of fighter pay. So apparently, 18.6% of the company's revenues go to fighters, which is very, very low. 43% of fighters made less than $45,000 in median yearly earnings, which, when you take into account things like paying for training camps, coaches, medical fees, etc., it's not a lot of net income for the fighters to take home and to provide, like food for their families. So, also a big point, and this was quite surprising when I was sort of learning about it, was that fighters are independent contractors and not employees, which basically means, as I've touched on previously, that they have to pay for medical expenses, travel, managers. Um, so when you break it all down, they don't take a lot of money home. Also, there's a tiered pay structure, which means that entry level fighters make as little as 10,000 to a max of $30,000 per fight, which also excludes tax, which means they're not left with a lot, and it means that many have to work second jobs just to survive. Um, Also, because of the amount of control that the UFC exerts over the fighters, given that that they've bought loads of rival companies, um, is unionization or the lack of unionization. Many fighters are fearful of the UFC, which is like the main reason why there is no formalized union. Um, Now, if they speak out against their contract, if they speak out against the company and the organization and speak out about a lack of fighter pay, many can have their contracts terminated. And obviously, given they have bought a lot of their rivals out, it means that they've got nowhere to go and there's no alternative for them. Um, just to touch on the final part of that, I think it's clear to see that the UFC is a monopoly. They've bought out their competition, and because of its dominance in the space, they can afford to pay fighters ridiculously low purses. Now, another another interesting sort of angle to the UFC model is their sponsorship um, is a sponsorship model. So they partner with Venom, which is their exclusive outfitting partner that's extended through to 2029, and that basically supplies fighters with walkout kits, fight week apparel, and merchandise, and that's worth approximately $50 million over 3 years. Now, the UFC were previously with Reebok, and that measures an incremental increase from that deal with Reebok. the impact of that deal with Venom is quite stark on the fighters, because especially in sports like boxing, fighters can display personal sponsor logos through Fight Week or in the Octagon. Now, I do a little bit of work with some fighters, and a big part of their income is through sponsorship deals, is through having company logos on their shorts. And now that can't happen in the UFC. All they can wear is Venom, and again, as we touched on previously, around less than 20% of the revenue goes to fighters. So, I mean, that deal with Venom, I guess most of it goes to the top. Not a lot of it goes to the fighters. And yeah, so the UFC essentially becomes the sole beneficiary of apparel related sponsor exposure. Now, another angle is that they signed a record-breaking $175 million deal with crypto.com. The deal is worth over 10 years. It's worth $17.5 million per year. And although the fighters receive money through fan bonuses, and there was like an NFT revenue sharing scheme, again, as mentioned, the UFC retains most of that deal. Monster have the most coveted spot, and it's been their longest standing partner since 2015. There's no exact figures on their sponsorship deal, but the latest contract extension is reported to be in the region of 9 figures. So, to conclude, the UFC has a total of 52 sponsorship partners, bringing in $251 million per year. All deals are centralized. They are negotiated by the UFC and applied to every fighter. So, again, as mentioned, every UFC fighter will have to wear the same uniform. There's no disparity. It's all monotonous. There's no individuality. There's no, fighters in boxing, for example, wear different color shorts. Again, and through that, they can express their personality and who they are as a person. This doesn't happen in the UFC. It's all just the same, and a big part of that means basically, because of this, the UFC keeps most of that money, with only a fraction going to the fighters. Now, with Dana White's entry into boxing through Zuffa Boxing, there's a real chance that the boxing model becomes centralized, especially given the passing of the Muhammad Ali Boxing Revival Act, which is something that I've gone through on my Instagram. But yeah, thank you for watching.